Hokage Multiverse. Time Traveler rewrites ninja history for immortality. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 91. Battle with Pain. The battle between the two sides started instantly. Animal Path Hanzo had no reservations. In addition to the already summoned Sandho fish and Yada bird, he immediately summoned Cerberus, Hell Crab, Chameleon, Armored Rhino, Petrified Panda, and other psychic beasts. The chameleon swallowed Tian Dao and Hungry Keto, became invisible and disappeared. Beast Path commanded the psychic army and rushed towards the three Jiraiya's. Facing Konoha's three giants, an ordinary range shinobi would die no matter how much he charged at him, so it was better to let the psychic beast test it out first. What's more, Jiraiya entered Sage mode in advance and revealed his identity. This made Nagato quite afraid. There is a high probability that Konoha knows much more information than he expected. There is no room for reservation in this battle. Tsunade was the first to rush out, bursting out with strange power. With one punch, he knocked over the iron-armored rhino at the front, and the terrifying power shook the surrounding earth. So many psychic beasts? Is this also the power of the reincarnation eye? Snort. I want to see how many you can get. Tsunade was extremely domineering, jumped up, and quickly rushed towards the other psychic beast. In front of her, a humanoid Tyrannosaurus Rex. Most psychic beasts would only be abused. Psychic art. Jiraiya activated his channeling and summoned the three toads from Mount Mayaboku. Gamabunta, Takaru, and Hiroshi joined the battlefield one after another, cooperating with Tsunade to fight against the opponent's psychic beast army. Fire style, Fire Dragon Bullet. Sarutobi formed a seal and spit out a large beam of flames, shooting at the Cerberus. The latter was burned by the flames, immediately triggered his ability, split into two heads, and continued to pounce on Sarutobi. Sarutobi-sensei, don't attack that psychic dog. It has been subjected to the augmented psychic technique, and it will split after being attacked. It's better to control it with sealing techniques or restricted ninjutsu. The advantages of intelligence are becoming increasingly apparent. Jiraiya can command his own people and make the most appropriate response without any temptation at all. I see. It's easy to deal with it once you know its weaknesses. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Three-way seal. Psychic art. King Kong Prison Wall. Sarutobi separated into three clones and used the barriers technique, tripartite seal, to form a green transparent pyramid barriers, trapping a Cerber Hound in it. At the same time, he also summoned Ape King Ape Demon, turned into a wish-fulfilling stick, and split into dozens of wish-fulfilling sticks, forming a huge cube cage, trapping another Hell Dog. This way, you can control these two beasts without harming each other. This most powerful psychic beast under pain was easily controlled in front of Professor Ninjutsu. Of course, it all depends on intelligence. Otherwise, if you want to analyze and see through the opponent's abilities and weaknesses during the battle, you will have to attack at least several times, and the Cerberus may have split into dozens of heads. Don't even think about controlling it all. Even more outrageous, as long as there is enough chakra, an infinitely divided Cerber Hound can probably kill the Konoha army. At the same time, Shura Dao Pain rushed towards Jiraiya alone. As the main attacker among the four paths, his whole body has been transformed into a weapon puppet. Extremely powerful and extremely fast. In a sneak attack, Jiraiya's arms and throat can be easily destroyed. Pity. Facing Jiraiya, who was already prepared in Sage mode, it was naturally impossible to succeed easily. The technique of messing up the lion's hair. Jiraiya's hair grew longer, forming the shape of a lion's head, entangling the Azura path that was coming towards him. The latter immediately struggled hard and broke a lot of hair, but more hair immediately rolled up, making it impossible for him to break free. Seeing that he was tightly entangled, Shura Dao immediately changed his offensive, opened the head mechanism directly, aimed at Jiraiya, and suddenly fired the laser cannon. Z. The laser cannon hit Jiraiya, but it exploded into a cloud of white mist. It was obviously just a clone. In fact, its true body has already become a strand of white hair that binds Azura Dao. Jiraiya, who had regained his true form, was almost close to Shura Dao and immediately activated Sage Jutsu. Sage Art Massive Rasengan. A massive Rasengan, dozens of times larger than an ordinary Rasengan, quickly condensed in Jiraiya's palm and hit Shura Dao. At zero distance. Shura Dao had no time to dodge and was hit by massive Rasengan on the spot. A large explosion exploded. The Shura Dao was shattered instantly, and most of his body exploded into a pile of parts. Shura Dao Pain, the first one to end. The other side. Tsunade had already released the In Seal and smashed the psychic beast Petrified Panda with another punch. This is already the fourth psychic beast she has killed, and she is completely unstoppable. On the right side of the battlefield, the Hanzo puppet that had been transformed into the beast path no longer had the buff of old age and frailty. Although its strength is not as good as it was at its peak, it has recovered by more than half. He used the instantaneous technique and fire style to detonate the flame array, which he used very skillfully, and he also used the chain scythe coated with poison to attack. He actually fought with Hiruzen Sarutobi back and forth. It can be regarded as barely worthy of his title of Ninja Demigod. Jiraiya looked around the whole place and continued to look for the remaining two pen. Soon, on his left shoulder, the housewife, Zenin Shima, who had a stronger sense of perception, noticed the approach of Chameleon. Little Jiraiya, watch your back. Jiraiya moved in a flash, easily avoiding the attack of the chameleon behind him. At the same time, Shima Zenin stuck out his long tongue and restrained the chameleon instantly, while Fukasaku Zenin cooperated tacitly and immediately spit out a sharp water column. Tongue War Binding Water Cut. The water column easily slashed Chameleon in half, killing it instantly and exploding into white mist. The Tendo Pain and Hungry Kido, originally hidden inside, were revealed. Tiandao Pain, who reappeared, was not in a hurry, but stared at Jiraiya. These few rounds of fighting and testing have already proven too many things. Konoha understands itself far better than he expected. It seems that he knows almost every ability and weakness of Pen, as if he has fought against him many times. This feeling of being completely seen through and targeted by the enemy made Nagato very unhappy and uncomfortable. Someone leaked our information? The one Madara did? You want Konoha to defeat me? Or do you have some other purpose? It's not important anymore. Even if it's really him, I have to wait until Konoha is defeated before settling the score with him. The information must have been leaked. It would be a lie to say that I am not angry. But Nagato still has absolute confidence in his own power, or he is confident that the reincarnation eye has an almost godlike power. Even if the enemy knows all the information, it is impossible to defeat him. It is impossible for man to defeat God. Tiandao Pain will no longer be retained. The Hungry Kido, in front of him, suddenly fell down. It was because he was taking back his power and trying to activate Super Shinra Tensei to end the battle completely with one move. If possible, Nagato doesn't want to kill Jiraiya-sensei. After all, he and Yahiko were the mentors of the three of them, and he also saved his own life, so the kindness was still there. Otherwise, since there is no hard condition to capture Nine-Tails Jinchuriki alive at this moment, he can just come up and release a Super Shinra Tensei to clear the area, and all Konoha's army will definitely die. However, as the battle deepens, facing Jiraiya and others who knew almost all of his information, Nagato could no longer hold back. He didn't know who leaked this information to Konoha and what the other party was planning. But if it drags on, Konoha will find an opportunity to defeat itself. Then his future plan of collecting tailed beasts and leading to a deterrent piece will be completely interrupted. No matter what, he cannot let Konoha ruin his long-cherished wish. Even if I have to kill Jiraiya-sensei, I won't hesitate. Feel the pain. Tiandao Pain raised his hands, swept the crowd indifferently, and murmured, "Quick, interrupt him." Feeling the huge chakra gathered on Tiandao's body, Jiraiya immediately yelled. He had already guessed what ultimate move the opponent was going to launch. That Xia You immortal said that once Pain is asked to release Super Shinra Tianjung, at close range, no one can hold it. They all have to be destroyed. Sage art, thousands of wool needles. Jiraiya launched his fastest and most flexible move, which didn't even require a seal. In the blink of an eye, his hair suddenly hardened, and thousands of burrs as hard as steel needles shot out like a storm, heading straight for Pain. Tiandao's Super Shinra Tenjung charge was interrupted. He could only raise his hand and release an ordinary Shinra Tianjung. Puff! All the hair needles were blocked and bounced away. Tendu's Shinra Tensei can easily block Sage Art Spiral Shuriken, so it is no problem to deal with Jiraiya's hair needle Senbon. Were you interrupted? Do you even know that I want to release Super Shinra Tenjung? This information was also leaked? As expected of Jiraiya-sensei, it's really tricky. Pain secretly sighed, raising the threat of Konoha and Jiraiya teachers to the highest level in his heart. In this case, let yourself defeat the teacher in an upright manner. Tendo Pain drew out a black rod and used it as a weapon to kill Sage Jiraiya straight away. Hungry Kido, on the side, also got up, following closely behind, ready to absorb ninjutsu attacks for Tiandao at any time. Sage Art, Gomen. Jiraiya activated the combined Sage Jutsu, spitting out a column of oil from his mouth, and mixed it with the wind release and fire style of the two-toed sages on his shoulders, forming a large sea of oil fire. The boiling oil with a temperature of thousands of degrees seemed to be enough to melt the air. And the coverage area is huge. In theory, thousands of troops can be burned out with one move. It's Jiraiya's strongest range attack, Sage Jutsu. However, with Hungry Kido around, his ability is the differentiated Reincarnation Eye Sealing Technique Absorption Seal, which can absorb all ninjutsu, including Sage Jutsu attacks that change nature and form after leaving the body. Just like that, Hungry Kido immediately stood in front of Heavenly Way, absorbing a large area of sea of fiery oil and fire wantonly. This strongest range Sage Jutsu is completely unable to harm Pain's second path. Unfortunately, this was also part of the plan of Information Jiraiya. Right now, another figure suddenly jumped out of the large sea of oil and fire and came to Hungry Kido. It turned out to be Tsunade, who was using the Ninpo technique, creation and regeneration, and the jutsu of 100 heroes. She actually endured the high temperature and burned herself and walked through the sea of fire. In this way, he can avoid the vision sharing of Reincarnation Eye and get in front of Hungry Kido Pain. Die to me. Boom. Tsunade punched out, hitting Kido in the middle. The latter's sealing seal couldn't stop the physical iron fist, let alone Tsunade's strange strength, and was directly shattered by a punch. Episode 92, Battle with Pain 2. After knowing the information. Long before the war started, Jiraiya had designed a variety of combat strategies. However, he found that most of his attacks were difficult to defeat Pain, especially with the protection of Hungry Kido. The Reincarnation Eye, that can absorb all ninjutsu, can defeat all ninjutsu-type ninjas. Professor Ninjutsu, both Sarutobi Hiruzen and the heroic Sage Jiraiya are all ninjutsu-type ninjas. In other words, only Tsunade has strange power and is good at close combat. Best used against Hungry Kido. It's a pity that the Samsara Eye projected by Pain can share vision, and there is no blind spot in the field of vision. Tsunade has no chance to get close to Hungry Kido. If you get even slightly closer, you will be bounced away by Tiandao Pain. Only one person has no chance, but cooperation with each other can accomplish the impossible. Pain has 4 puppets, and Jiraiya also has teammates. He never forgets that he is not fighting alone. Use the Sea of Fire as cover, take advantage of Hungry Kido to absorb it, launch a close attack and kill with one hit. This is Jiraiya's tactic. And it worked. No matter how smart Nagato was, he couldn't have imagined that someone could carry the Sea of Fire and get in front of Hungry Kido. Only Tsunade, who has super self-healing and regeneration abilities, can do this. After dealing with Hungry Kido, Tsunade rushed towards Tiandao again. Unfortunately, Tiandao, who was already on guard, immediately launched Shinra's Heavenly March and ejected Tsunade. For a while, looking at the Sea of Fire that was gradually dissipating in front of him, as well as Hungry Kido, who had died suddenly, Tiandao Pain can't help but sigh. Even though I thought I overestimated Jiraiya-sensei, I unexpectedly underestimated him. Is this the weight of Konoha Sannin? Hanzo, that loser, could actually defeat the Konoha Sannin who cooperated so well back then? It can only be said that Konoha Sannin should have been relatively immature when he was young, right? Far from what it is now. At this time, Sarutobi Hiruzen also jumped over and landed next to Jiraiya. Taking advantage of the moment when the Heavenly Path had taken away its power and Animal Path Hanzo had come to a standstill, Sarutobi naturally easily solved the Animal Path. This moment, Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Hiruzen Sarutobi, the 3 giants of Konoha, faced off against Tiandao Pain together. As for Pain, the other 3 paths have been scrapped, leaving only Tiandao alone. The fighting lasted only a few minutes. The Konoha side relied on their intelligence superiority and almost completely won. Long. Pen, give up, you can no longer win. Jiraiya stopped Tsunade, who was about to make a move, and tried to dissuade her again. Tiandao Pain in the distance shook his head, still expressionless, and said, Jiraiya-sensei, do you really think you will win? Nagato, you finally acknowledge me. Teacher, this is already the case. Do you think there is still room for relaxation between Konoha and Rain Shinobi Village? There is still room. As long as you are willing to stop, everything is negotiable. Right, Sarutobi-sensei. Jiraiya looked expectantly at Sarutobi Hiruzen beside him. The latter paused and then said quietly, the war can be stopped, but Rain Shinobi Village must make compensation. The status of Konoha Village and Fire Country cannot be challenged. The change in the battlefield situation gave Sarutobi a little more confidence. Currently 3 against 1. Moreover, the ordinary battlefield in the distance also gave Konoha an overwhelming advantage. In this case, if Rain Shinobi Village is simply let go, how will Konoha survive in the ninja world in the future? Just the fire country side can't explain it. At least, Rain Shinobi Village must admit defeat and pay compensation to make up for Konoha's face. Jiraiya was stunned and didn't know how to persuade him. I feel like Sarutobi is right to think about it from Konoha's position. Tiandao Pain smiled coldly at this. Jiraiya-sensei, do you understand? You big countries always think that you are the protagonists of the world and have never experienced the difficulties of small countries. You will only impose your own desires and harshness on small countries. It is impossible for people to truly understand each other. Only pain will make everyone treat them equally. In response, the impatient Tsunade directly retorted, "Stop chattering about those stupid things. It's obviously you who initiated the war against Konoha. Stop acting like a victim." Tiandao Pain glared at Tsunade fiercely, his murderous intent rising sharply. "Pack? It seems you don't understand real pain either. I'll make you feel it. All things are attracted by heaven." Tendo Pain activated the relatively rarely used, all-seeing tension, directly sucking up Tsunade in the distance and flying towards him. Nagato. Wait. Seeing Tsunade being attacked, Jiraiya was so anxious that he didn't care about any persuasion. Take action quickly. The technique of messing up the lion's hair. Jiraiya shot out his hair, entangled Tsunade in the air, and pulled her back to prevent her from being sucked over. But this suction force was too strong, causing Tsunade to still get closer to Tiandao. Tiandao drew out a black rod, raised his hand, and shot it out. The speed was extremely fast, and it was inserted into Tsunade's abdomen in an instant. Tsunade. Sage Art. 5 Fire God Flame Fan. Seeing that Tsunade was injured, Jiraiya began to feel pain and activated Sage Art Fire Style again. Thunderwater Dragon Bomb. Sarutobi Hiruzen on the side also quickly activated the compound ninjutsu, shooting a charged water dragon bullet that combines water style and lightning style to attack the enemy and go straight to pain. Next moment. Both Fire Style and Thunder Dragon were easily deflected by Shinra Tenjung. Taking advantage of this gap, Tsunade, who had lost the attraction of all things tension, was also dragged back by Jiraiya. "Are you okay? Can't die." Tsunade pulled out the black stick and said fiercely. The wound also began to heal quickly on its own. But at this moment, in the fire mist in the distance, a figure rushed out at a very fast speed, so fast that only an afterimage could be seen with the naked eye. Boom! Tendo Pain punched Sarutobi in the stomach, knocking him away instantly. Tsunade and Jiraiya rushed out. Attack Pain together. A high kick from the side, a turning punch, and a flanking attack from left and right. But Tiandao took it with both hands at the same time, and the Shinra Heavenly March was not activated. Nanny. Tsunade was shocked. How could anyone resist her strange power? Jiraiya was equally surprised. Although his Sage Mode power was slightly inferior to Tsunade's, it was still terrifying. One punch is enough to break Shuradao. But now he is easily taken over by Tiandao? What's going on? How could his physical skills be so strong? The world is afraid of Pen 6 paths. But in fact, Heavenly Way is the core of 6 paths. It can be said. The other 5 paths combined cannot match half of the comprehensive combat power of Tiandao Pain. Even, the consumption of several other methods is reduced. And he hasn't released Super Shinra Tensei yet. Nagato's current chakra is still extremely sufficient. Even more, after a large amount of chakra and spirit are concentrated on Tendo Pain alone, its power will only be stronger. Moreover, Tiandao Pain's physical strength is the most powerful among the 6 paths. Although he was beaten by Naruto, who turned into a tailed beast, his style changed, but he never lost to Nine Tails. He can even resist the Nine Tails blaster with his physical body without being beaten into a pulp. A real man who can even open Nine Tails' arms with his bare hands and punch Nine Tails hard. In addition, he also ate an unfinished, tailed beast Jade at close range and exploded, but his clothes were only broken. Until his final defeat, his body was intact. With such physical strength, there are only a few in the entire ninja world. If you underestimate his melee ability, you will suffer a big loss. Teacher, are you surprised? I said, you don't understand the true power of God. I can't even understand the real pain. I'll let you feel it. Tiandao kicked Jiraiya away. Then he pulled out the black stick again and inserted it into the left side of Tsunade's head. Tsunade reacted quickly, blocking the black stick with her left arm, and even punched Tendo Pain directly on the chin. Shinra Tenjung. Tsunade was blown away again by the huge repulsion and fell to the ground. Sarutobi got up, and attacks followed one after another. He used the monkey demon to turn into a wish-fulfilling stick and quickly extended it, pushing against Tendo Pain. Don't underestimate this trick. Sarutobi used this move to push the complete 9 tails out of Konoha village. Unfortunately, this move is easy to use on larger targets, but not easy on humanoid ninjas. Pain activated the suction, turned sideways, and easily dodged the wishful stick. Then he killed Tsunade in the distance. He has already seen that teacher Jiraiya cares very much about Tsunade, one of the Konoha Sannin, and must have feelings for him. Just like the love he and Yahiko had for Konan back then. Kill her. It will probably make Jiraiya truly feel the pain. At that time, it's time to see if Mr. Jiraiya can still forgive himself calmly. Tsunade got up and spat out a mouthful of blood. She admitted that she did underestimate this puppet of heaven, but she did not expect that the opponent's physical skills were so powerful. But she is no vase. How could one of the dignified Konoha Sannin be easily defeated by pain? Facing Tiandao attacking again, Tsunade used her strength, crushed the ground with one foot, rushed out at full speed, and once again started a close hand-to-hand fight with Tiandao Pain. Sarutobi Hiruzen in the distance also held the wish-fulfilling stick and joined the battle. The two of them besieged Tendo Pain together, while Jiraiya used ninjutsu to assist in consumption from a distance. The power of Tiandao Pain is indeed beyond imagination. They were able to force the 3 giants of Konoha to join forces in such an embarrassing situation, and they barely managed a draw. This is already incredible. But the combined efforts of the 3 people also doubled the pressure on Tiandao Pain. Although he was strong, he was far from strong enough to easily defeat the 3 of them. Especially the Tsunade, so meaty and juicy. He had hit him hard several times with a black stick. But the other party will soon be able to heal and regenerate and become more alive again. Coupled with the continuous entanglement of the 3 people, Tiandao Pain also cannot charge up and release Super Shinra Tenjung. No way. Tiandao could only change his strategy. While fighting fiercely, he slowly moved the battlefield and gradually moved closer to the position of the main body. As long as you get within 1,000 meters, the main body can activate planetary devastation. By then, 3 people will be killed. Episode 93, Reversal. Seeing that Tiandao Pain was deliberately moving the battlefield, Intelligence July also secretly said that something was not going well. Not good. This guy is fighting and running at the same time. Most likely, he is preparing to get close to his body and then prepare to release the planetary devastation move, right? I heard that this move can easily seal even 9 tails. If this is shown, what's the point? It can't be delayed any longer. Jiraiya began to urge the 2 toad sages on his shoulders to activate genjutsu, magic, toad singing. The 2 toad couples were obviously a little embarrassed. After all, this technique requires a duet in public, which can be called social death. But since the battle, the 2 of them are also well aware of the enemy's strength and threat. Now is not the time to save face. Toad Duet. The extremely powerful hearing system genjutsu is performed by the 2 great immortals with a chorus of frog calls. After listening to the melody, the opponent can be trapped in genjutsu barriers and completely unable to move. This is. The disgusting and irritating double frog sound made Tiandao stop and look at teacher Jiraiya. He knew that the other party was definitely holding back some bad move again. And it's very likely that one move will determine the outcome. He just didn't think about genjutsu subconsciously. After all, he knew that Mr. Jiraiya was not good at genjutsu. But this does not mean that you have to indulge the other party. All things are attracted by heaven. Tiandao activated his ability to attract Jiraiya in the distance towards him, trying to interrupt the noise made by the 2 frogs. 5 Escape, Dalian Bullet Technique. Sarutobi hurriedly jumped out to stop him, and divided 4 Shadow Clone to cooperate with each other, using ninjutsu with 5 different attributes, and sprayed it at Tendo Pain at the same time. The 5 Escape combination ninjutsu collided together, erupting into a devastating explosion, covering an area hundreds of meters around. Forcibly interrupted Pain's all-seeing heavenly influence. Bang! Shinra Tenjung easily blocked Sarutobi's 5 Escape continuous bullets. Not waiting for him to take a breath, Tsunade pounced again, entangled with Tiandao Pain at close quarters, and never gave him the chance to release all things tension again. As expected of master and apprentice, the 3 of them still cooperated in a tacit understanding, producing an effect far beyond 1+1+1. Go away. Pain took the trouble to increase the power and released another, Shenra Tianzhong. The power was so strong that it directly flattened the surrounding area for more than 100 meters. Blow both Tsunade and Sarutobi away violently. Then he killed Jiraiya very quickly. Sage Art, Earth Style, Yellow Spring Marsh. Jiraiya in Sage mode activated Yellow Spring Marsh, turning the surrounding area hundreds of meters into a huge swamp, further delaying the approach of Tendo Pain. Nagato, it's time to end. After several people's delay and obstruction, the two-toed couples finally sang out all the melodies, successfully used the strongest sense of hearing, Genjutsu, and sealed the consciousness of Tian Dao into the Genjutsu space. Jiraiya-sensei. The unconscious Tian Dao Pain fell into the swamp. He never expected that teacher Jiraiya could master such a powerful Genjutsu. It can actually affect myself who has the reincarnation eye. This is something that Madara, Guy's Mangekyo Sharingan can't even do. Genjutsu. Unexpectedly, I fell into the hands of the Genjutsu I underestimated. Call, it is finally over. This guy is really ridiculously strong. Even Tsunade's strange strength can't break his body. That boy Nagato really still loves Yahiko the most? How many resources must be invested in this puppet corpse to make it so strong? Jiraiya took a long breath, smacked his tongue, and sighed. Did you make it? Sarutobi climbed up with difficulty and asked happily. It should be successful, but there is still one last step to go. Shwa. Jiraiya pulled out another stone sword unique to Mount Mayaboku and threw it to Tsunade. Tsunade, quickly insert this into the body of that heavenly puppet. In this way, the stone sword can absorb the surrounding natural energy and permanently seal the target's consciousness into the four great Ming King prisons in the Genjutsu space. Unless the target can be resurrected, it cannot be lifted. However, as far as Jiraiya knows, the Hell Path Pain, with the ability to resurrect, has not yet been built, so there should be no need to worry. As long as you insert it with a stone sword, you can completely seal Tian Dao Pain. As for Nagato's body, we'll find a way to solve it later. Good. Tsunade took the stone sword, jumped up high, jumped towards the target, and stabbed with the sword. Just when he was about to stab Tian Dao Pain, a pale figure suddenly emerged from the ground and used his body to block the stone sword thrust by Tsunade. What? Tsunade was startled and kicked the white Zetsu directly. But take advantage of this moment of delay. The other Baiju had already transferred Tian Dao Pain's body and moved it dozens of meters away, and untied the Genjutsu for him. Tian Dao Pain suddenly opened his eyes and woke up. When he saw Baijuho beside him, he immediately understood the current situation. Madara's men? This guy actually saved me? So it seems that this guy from Madara didn't leak the information? How did you come? Baiju smiled cowardly. Master Pain is the companion chosen by Master Madara. How can he fall here? Pain snorted coldly. It would have been a great honor to have not torn this bitchy guy into pieces. Who is that? Nagato's men? Does he still have help? Damn it, he actually untied Genjutsu. Jiraiya felt very sorry. He almost won, but he didn't expect to be ruined by such a bastard. And how did he hide it? Moved here using Earth Style? But why is there no chakra scent? After the lack of information, Jiraiya suddenly fell into blindness. Naturally, he didn't know that the Mayfly technique, mastered by Baiju, could integrate himself with the vegetation of the earth, achieve the effect of moving at high speed, and cut off all breath during the movement. This is due to the derived abilities of Wood Style and Ghetto Statue. Although it's not strong, it's almost full of stealth. Swish. Sarutobi and Tsunade returned to Jiraiya and frowned. Genjutsu failed? Interrupted by that guy. What should we do? Find a way to separate them and defeat them one by one. At the same time, Tian Dao and Baiju are here. Lord Pain, use that move. I'll buy time for you. Baiju encouraged. Tian Dao Pain nodded, naturally knowing what Baiju was talking about. So he stretched out his hands and gathered strength again. Oops. It's that trick again. Quick, stop him. Jiraiya yelled hastily, but the three of him and Tsunade suddenly grew big white swellings on their bodies. Baiju's spore technique. Spores can be spread in advance. The spores cannot be detected before they grow. After activation, they quickly expand into a proliferating body that resembles white Zetsu, wrapping the possessed person and absorbing the possessed person's chakra. Of course, it is impossible to defeat the three Jiraiyas with this technique, but it is enough to just delay them. Wait until Jiraiya and the others tore off the spore multipliers from their bodies. Then they discovered that dozens of white Zetsu appeared around them, all rushing towards them. Get out of my way. Tsunade smashed several white Zetsu with one punch. Jiraiya spit out fire bombs and burned many white Zetsu to death. Sarutobi also killed many white Zetsu instantly. Unfortunately, this back-and-forth struggle did waste a lot of time. It was difficult for Jiraiya and the other three to interrupt Tian Daopain's energy storage. Finally, Tian Daopain has finished charging up. Jiraiya-sensei, I'm sorry. From now on, really feel the pain. Super Shinra Tenjong. Episode 94. Teacher, feel the bag of rice. The ultimate white light exploded with pain as the center. The terrifying impact instantly overwhelmed everything around it, like a tailed beast jade, exploding on the ground. Almost unstoppable. In fact, the Super Shinra Tenjong released in the air can naturally maximize the damage range. But it doesn't mean you have to fly to be released. Instead, it explodes at close range on the ground, and the killing effect on the enemy can reach the maximum level. Boom! The thunderous roar continued for dozens of seconds. Stay until it's over. Looking around, everything within 1,000 meters was swept away by the terrifying repulsive force. A giant yellow round pit appeared on the ground. The damage range is so large that it is almost larger than an ordinary, tailed beast jade. After all, the most ordinary, tailed beast jade, cannot destroy the entire Konoha village with one shot. Only 9 tails charged tailed beast jade can do it. In terms of power alone, this move has surpassed the power of Madara's complete Susanoo sword. Of course, the costs of the two are different. Pain fired a shot of Super Shinra Tensei and was almost half exhausted and had to squeeze out a certain amount of vitality. And Mr. Madara's complete Susanoo can chop without sleep for 3 days and 3 nights. It is finally over. But he's not dead yet? Tian Daopain landed in the center of a huge pit more than 100 meters deep, looked into the distance, and murmured alone. Under this shot of Super Shinra Tianzhong, the remaining dozen or so white Jew were all instantly killed and crushed to pieces. Tian Daopain has already seen that that guy is not a normal human being at all. All Baizetsu are probably the same thing. It doesn't matter if it's affected. What's more, it was Baiju who encouraged him to release Super Shinra Tenjong. As for the 3 enemies, Jiraiya, they also felt uncomfortable. Look from a distance. Hundreds of meters away, 3 seriously injured bodies fell over there. Half of Sarutobi Hiruzen's arms had disappeared, his body was covered in blood, and he was unconscious on the ground. Tsunade also collapsed on the ground, naked, and her Inseal and Baihao's art had been lifted. Apparently the chakra had been exhausted, and the clothes originally created with chakra naturally disappeared. Jiraiya was a little better and struggled to sit up. Half of his left leg was only a white bone, and all the flesh and blood on it had been scraped away by the repulsive force. The 2 toad sages on his shoulders also disappeared. Jiraiya released the necromancy in time, sending them all back to Mount Myaboku, and his sage mode also exited. When Super Shinra Tensei erupted just now, they were only a few dozen meters away from pain. It's equivalent to eating a tailed beast jade at close range. Unprepared, almost no ninja can withstand it. The 3 of them did not die suddenly on the spot, which was considered very lucky. Thanks to Jiraiya and Sarutobi, Earth Style was cast in time to block part of the power. Otherwise, the 3 of them might not even have any scum left now. But even so, all 3 of them were seriously injured and almost lost all combat effectiveness. Wow! Jiraiya spat out a large mouthful of blood, his hair was disheveled, and he was extremely embarrassed. Obviously, I already knew all the enemy's information, but I didn't expect that I would be defeated in the end. He was defeated by one move, Super Shinra Tianzhong. The power of one move shattered all of Jiraiya's tactics and strategies. This is absolute power. Is this the power of God represented by the reincarnation eye? Jiraiya had no intention of thinking about this and quickly looked towards Tsunade. Tsunade! He staggered up and rushed towards Tsunade, who was dozens of meters away, wanting to confirm her condition. Swish swish, 4 black rods came through the air and hit Jiraiya, piercing his limbs and nailing them to the ground. It is clear. That was shot by Tian Daopain. I saw him walking step by step, staring at Jiraiya, and asked with an indifferent expression, "Teacher, do you realize what pain is now?" Nagato. You shouldn't be like this. Force cannot solve all problems. Have you forgotten your ideals? Have you forgotten the vows you and Yahiko made? This war will only bring more pain to Rain Shinobi Village, and peace will never come. Give up. Stop now while you can. Jiraiya persuaded and struggled at the same time. Unfortunately, he was nailed to the ground and the black rod disrupted the chakra in his body, so he couldn't move at all. Now that things have happened, do you still want to preach to me? It seems that, teacher, you don't understand pain enough. Then I will teach you again. As Tendo Pain spoke, he walked up to Sarutobi Hiruzen and pulled out a black stick. Wait, Nagato. What do you want to do? Stop. Don't. Jiraiya roared, but it was a pity that he couldn't stop Tiandao Pain at all. Pfft. The black rod instantly pierced Sarutobi Hiruzen's heart, leaving Sarutobi in a coma with no resistance. The third Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen, died. Hiruzen-sensei. Nagato, you. See the scene. Jiraiya was furious in an instant, and the raging anger rose up, almost exploding. No matter how many shortcomings Sarutobi has, he is still his teacher. He is also the mentor who taught him ninjutsu and led him to grow up. Now he was killed by the disciple he taught. So absurd, so shocking. Jiraiya simply couldn't accept it. It's a pity that Nine Tails is not sealed in his body. No matter how angry he is, he can't suddenly explode, let alone break away from the shackles of the black rod. Tendo Pain stood up and stepped over Sarutobi's body. Looking at the furious Jiraiya, he continued to ask, Teacher, what are you doing now? Can you feel the pain? Can you still forgive me? At this moment, do you still dare to say that people can understand each other? You. Jiraiya was so angry that he could no longer speak complete words. He knew that Nagato had been plotted and induced to become evil, but he didn't expect that he would be so completely twisted. Even if he kills Sarutobi Hiruzen, he must let himself experience the pain and prove to himself that he is right. Jiraiya-sensei, if you kill someone, you will be killed. Hatred will tie the two together. If you want to cut off this hatred, your so-called understanding and love are completely powerless. The only thing that can truly cut off hatred is pain. Only fear. Jiraiya's eyes were blood red and he stared at Pain. It was impossible for him to agree with Nagato's philosophy. This is wrong. You can't possibly succeed. You will only create more hatred. Tiandao Pain looked at Jiraiya, shook his head, and stopped talking nonsense. Instead, he pulled out a black stick again. And in front of Jiraiya, he walked step by step towards the unconscious Tsunade on the left. See this. Jiraiya's pupils shrank. He already guessed something and shouted quickly, etc. Nagato. No! You can't lay a hand on Tsunade. I promise you any conditions, we can hand over Danzo. No, do not want. Tendo Pain was indifferent and came straight to Tsunade, raising the black stick. Finally, he said coldly, Teacher, it's too late. Death will not let you go just because you beg for mercy. It's time for you to experience real pain. After saying that, Tiandao Pain aimed at Tsunade and stabbed her with a stick. Episode 95. Do you like me, Orochimaru? No. When Jiraiya roared almost desperately, Tiandao Pain stabbed the black stick in his hand. But something unexpected happened. This moment, Tiandao Pain seemed to have been drained of all his strength and fell to the ground softly, turning into a lifeless puppet. The black stick in his hand also slipped off, only scratching part of Tsunade's skin. This. What happened? Jiraiya was stunned, completely unable to understand the situation. After a while, seeing that Tiandao Pain was still motionless, he gradually realized. There is a high probability that something is wrong with Nagato's body. Only in this way can we explain why this puppet of heaven suddenly stopped moving. But who can find and influence Nagato's true form? Was Minato taking action? Are you going to win? Jiraiya breathed a sigh of relief and made random guesses in his mind. No matter who it is, as long as Tsunade is not dead. Jiraiya was only half right. Someone did threaten Nagato's body, but it was not Minato. It's a certain sneak snake that has been lurking for a long time. Relying on the several broken bodies of Pain and the Black Rod, Orochimaru easily traced the location of Nagato's body in reverse direction. Like Jiraiya, although Orochimaru also mastered the sage mode of Ryoichi Cave, it was also not perfect. Moreover, in order to perfect Bumbushi reincarnation, after he continued to change bodies, it became even more difficult to grasp the balance of the natural power in his body. So he turned to research on a more adaptable low-end version of Sage Jutsu's Curse Seal power. But it doesn't mean that he doesn't understand Sage Jutsu. Using the half-baked Sage mode, it is not difficult to reversely track chakra. In addition, Nagato's thoughts were all on Jiraiya's side. He didn't notice Orochimaru's approach at all. Shwa. The flawless paper tree was split open by Orochimaru's pheasant sword, and revealed Nagato's true form and Konin hiding inside. I found you. Orochimaru showed a cruel smile, looked at the two Nagatos, and licked his lips fiercely. Orochimaru. You. Konin was shocked and quickly protected Nagato. As expected, it's you too. Have the little devils from back then grown to this level? That loser Jiraiya will only cause some trouble. I should have gotten rid of you from the beginning. However, it is not too late to make corrections now. And the pair of reincarnation eyes, I accept them without mercy. Ninja technique, latent shadow multi-snake hand. Orochimaru took action decisively, stretched out dozens of long snakes from his arms, and rushed towards Konan and the two. There are also sharp swords sandwiched in it to increase attack power and penetration. Konan is pretty good though. But how could she be Orochimaru's opponent, and her shiki paper dance is not very suitable for protection, but more suitable for offense. No way. Nagato, who sensed the crisis, could only withdraw his consciousness and power from Tiandao Pain, returned to his true form, and helped Konan, blocking a wave of attacks from Orochimaru. Wind escape, vacuum jade. Nagato used wind escape and cut off all the snake hands in front of him. Orochimaru, it's you. You actually found this place? Is this your tactic? Despicable Konoha? Orochimaru licked the Kusanagi sword in his hand again, with a look of disdain. I'm different from that idiot Jiraiya. I just made a deal with someone else. Konoha's face may not be given to Orochimaru, but Yellow Flash's face must still be given, not to mention receiving Sharingan from others as payment. Once he takes on a task, Orochimaru will never disappoint his employer, let alone give up halfway. Deal? With whom? Nagato stared at Orochimaru with resentment in his eyes. If this guy hadn't disrupted the situation, his own Tiandao Pain would have killed Tsunade, which would really make teacher Jiraiya feel the pain. It's all this bastard's fault. Even if it weren't for the fact that he wasn't sure of killing this guy quickly. Nagato had already taken action, killed Orochimaru, and then continued to control Tendo Pain. Of course it's our Hokage-sama. Orochimaru continued to smile ferociously, but did not say which Hokage it was. Hokage? The one I just killed? Orochimaru was startled and asked, did you kill the old man? That's right. Third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, this guy who despised small countries and brought us endless pain, should have died long ago. Oh, is it so? Then you die too. Orochimaru's face turned cold and murderous intent broke out. The cold snake eyes revealed a biting frost. Although there were many things he disliked about Hiruzen Sarutobi, he was his teacher after all. You can touch Sarutobi yourself, but others can't. No one can. Since the other party killed the old man, then go and bury him with him. The formation of 10,000 snakes. Orochimaru opened his mouth, spit out tens of thousands of chakra snakes, quickly wrapped and tore the entire paper tree, and then killed the two Nagatos. Sealing technique absorbing seal. Nagato's body released the sealing technique absorption seal, absorbing all the seals from the densely packed group of snakes. Konan on the side also started to release shiki paper dance, turning countless pieces of paper around into sharp blades, strangling the snakes crazily. While their vision was obscured by endless snakes, Orochimaru actually activated software transformation and greatly extended his neck. And he got into the ground, went around from the underground to the two Nagatos, and suddenly launched a sneak attack. He even shot the unstoppable Kusanagi sword from his mouth and hit Nagato directly between his eyebrows. Orochimaru's attacks are always so cunning and mean. As long as he can kill the enemy, he doesn't care what moves he uses. Moreover, Nagato's body would stay in such a huge mobile life support machine, which proves that his lower body is disabled and has almost no mobility at all. Even if you can't kill Nagato, it can also destroy his machine and weaken his condition. Shinra Tenjin. Nagato was forced to activate his ability, and the sharp edge of the Kusanagi sword made him feel threatened. You can only use Shinra Tianjung to roughly bounce it away. But he was also forced to destroy the mobile machine of his lower body. The huge repulsive force launched Orochimaru 100 meters away. He withdrew his Kusanagi sword and became increasingly aware of the power and thorniness of the reincarnation eye. But Orochimaru was not afraid at all. There is nothing in this world worth fearing. He even licked his lips fiercely again, his strong killing intent mixed with a trace of greed. Good, good. The stronger the reincarnation eye is, the higher its value is. Just looking at Nagato's current state, one knew that the battle between him and Jiraiya and others would be extremely exhausting. This is the best time to kill Nagato and capture the reincarnation eye. How to capture it? Isn't this simple? This snake is also extremely good at even the most forbidden arts. Yama no Jutsu. Orochimaru clapped his hands and activated this forbidden technique that he had just learned. Episode 96. Go and ask Master Namake's Minato to come out. Boom. Fierce explosions and fighting sounds rang out in the forest thousands of meters away. Jiraiya raised his head with difficulty and looked over there. He knew that that side was probably where Nagato's body was. This chakra. It's that Orochimaru guy. Sure enough, That guy's claim to leave the village was just a pretense, but was he actually staying in the dark the whole time? As expected of that guy. Jiraiya breathed a sigh of relief and felt relieved. Orochimaru here has not yet betrayed Konoha. He is still the respected Konoha Sannin and one of Jiraiya's most trusted partners. However, he may not be able to defeat Nagato alone. We must rush to help him. Jiraiya struggled desperately, but unfortunately he still couldn't shake the black stick. Being pinned by this thing can only be broken through with a tailed beast-level chakra. Otherwise, you simply can't escape by yourself. Just when Jiraiya was close to despair, another figure suddenly arrived and appeared beside him. Chief Fugaku. Uchiha Fugaku nodded slightly. Jiraiya-sama, what are you doing? Quick, help me pull out these sticks. Fugaku stretched out his hand and pulled out the black sticks nailed to Jiraiya one by one. Thank you, I'm finally out of trouble. Jiraiya, who got rid of the black stick blockade and finally regained his mobility, quickly thanked him. This battlefield. With such a large area of ruins, are you fighting a tailed beast? How strong is the enemy? Looking at the giant yellow pit around him, Fugaku was inevitably shocked. That is indeed a very powerful enemy. Jiraiya looked gloomy. He was really embarrassed to say that he was defeated by his disciple, and he was in such a mess. Wait, that's… Fugaku looked at the corpse of Sarutobi Hiruzen not far away with a look of shock on his face. Mr. Hiruzen, hey. Jiraiya wanted to say something, but in the end he could only turn into a lament. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have thought of persuading Nagato. If I had been ruthless and killed him from the beginning. Maybe Hiruzen-sensei. See it? Fugaku patted Jiraiya and apologized without changing his expression. Sorry, I'm late. But in fact, just when he saw the explosion of Super Shinra Tenjung, Fugaku rushed here quickly. At that time, Tendo Pain had not yet killed Sarutobi Hiruzen. Out of fear, Fugaku chose to hide himself and did not take action. After all, I can't withstand a terrifying attack comparable to the tailed beast Jade. Showing your head rashly is no different than seeking death. As for witnessing third-generation Sarutobi Hiruzen being killed by Tendo Pain, that was also a helpless move. Besides, why should I save the third generation? Does he allow Danzo to continue to make things difficult for the Uchiha clan? Or is he determined to strengthen the Sarutobi clan and suppress other clans with all his strength? My family has never enjoyed the blessings of the third generation, so why should I risk my life to save this old guy? Moreover, Fugaku is now a staunch 4th Hokage Watergate party member. Now that you have invested and taken sides, you must have enough awareness. You could argue that Fugaku is cold-blooded and cruel enough. But in his eyes, a 3rd Hokage living in people's memories is much better than a 3rd generation living in the village. How can I blame you? It's my problem. I failed to protect teacher Hiruzen. Jiraiya is still very responsible. Naturally, I won't blame others randomly, let alone my teammates. Clan Chief Fugaku, could you please collect the teacher's body? Good. Fugaku walked towards the body of Sarutobi Hiruzen and prepared to bury it. Jiraiya stood up unsteadily, jumped to Tsunade's side on one foot, and hurriedly checked her condition. After confirming that there was no life-threatening danger, he relaxed. Then he quickly took off his clothes and wrapped the naked Tsunade. Normally, Jiraiya would most likely have a bucket full of nosebleeds when he saw such a powerful and impressive naked body. But now that the enemy is still there, he really has no energy to think about anything else. Fugaku collected Sarutobi's body and came closer again. Jiraiya asked again, I would also like to trouble the Fugaku clan leader. I hope you can take the bodies of Tsunade and teacher back first. It's too dangerous for them to stay here. Fugaku hesitated for a moment, as once he agreed, it meant he had to leave the battlefield. It's both a good thing and a bad thing. Jiraiya-sama, your injuries are not serious. Do you need more? Yes. Orochimaru is still fighting the enemy over there. I have to go and help. Jiraiya showed a little bitterness. Losing a leg would naturally have a big impact on his fighting power, but it was even more impossible for him to let Orochimaru fight alone. Please, Chief Fugaku. Okay, I understand. Fugaku no longer resisted and agreed. Then he picked up Tsunade, took Sarutobi's body, and left quickly. After watching Fugaku leave, Jiraiya finally had no worries anymore. Then, he bandaged it briefly and stopped the bleeding from the wound. Then he rushed towards the direction where Orochimaru was fighting Nagato in the distance. The other side. Fugaku led Tsunade around the battlefield and soon arrived at the rear of Konoha's troops. The battle here is basically over. The 3,000 Konoha army easily destroyed the remaining ranged shinobi troops with overwhelming force. There's no suspense. But the key still depends on the outcome of the two sides' cutting-edge combat capabilities. If Jiraiya and the others lose, how can the remaining Konoha troops be Nagato's opponents? Just letting the psychic beast charge a few times is enough to penetrate the Konoha army. At this moment, the rear of Konoha troops. There was even more uproar when they saw the Fugaku clan leader returning with the unconscious Tsunade and the body of Sarutobi Hiruzen. No one expected that the dignified third Hokage would die in such a battle. Wasn't it a huge advantage just now? Many people watched as Sarutobi and the three of them besieged and hunted down the remaining Tiandao Pain. How come the situation was reversed all of a sudden? A large number of Konoha ninjas gathered around, wanting to confirm the authenticity. Or hope that this is just a cover, hope that Lord Sarutobi of the third generation was not killed in battle. And, among the crowd, a certain figure who had been deprived of his position and looked gloomy was the most excited at this moment. Danzo pushed aside the crowd and rushed to Sarutobi's body. The moment he saw Sarutobi's body, Danzo was also stunned. He froze in place stupidly, and it took him a while to react. Hiruzen. How did you? Impossible. Are you pretending to be dead again? Wake up. The excited Danzo grabbed Sarutobi's body by the collar and roared and hissed at him. He really didn't believe that this guy would die here. He will die at the hands of a mere, range shinobi village. This guy is Professor Ninjutsu, who is known as the strongest Hokage. And Danzo just wanted to be a Hokage and surpass Sarutobi from beginning to end. I never wanted to kill Hiruzen. Unfortunately, there was no response from Sarutobi's cold body, only death and silence. You bastard! You actually died in front of me. How could you expect me to surpass you? You beast. Danzo became more and more crazy, but no one dared to stop him. Everyone knows about his relationship with Sarutobi. After a while, Danzo had to accept the reality and turn to glare at Fugaku. Where are the enemies? Still fighting with Jiraiya and Orochimaru. Can you win? Not sure, but the opponent seems to be stronger than the tailed beast. There is a high probability that he will lose. Danzo panicked in his heart, with strong hatred and fear mixed together, forcing him to grit his teeth and make a decision. Quickly, go and ask Namake's Minato, and ask the fourth Hokage-sama to attack. I must avenge Hiruzen. Episode 97. The Power of Baki. As long as there is still a glimmer of opportunity, a glimmer of possibility, Danzo would not put his hope in Namake's Minato. However, now there is no room for him to play tricks and conspiracies. Nagato's terrifying strength has torn all his plans to pieces. He even took away Sarutobi Hiruzen's life. Sarutobi's death brought too much excitement to Danzo. He no longer cares about Hokage or not, he just wants to kill the enemy and avenge Hiruzen. Even if it means asking a junior ninja for help, he won't hesitate. What's more, if Nagato really kills Jiraiya and the other two, will he be the next one to die? With his identity and status, it's okay to rely on Sarutobi to show off his power in Konoha village. After leaving Konoha, who would take advantage of him? Killing him would be as cruel and decisive as killing a chicken. At this moment, Danzo was deeply aware of this. Danzo-sama, fourth generation, wasn't he injured because of 9 tails? Fugaku said knowingly, this is the real actor with facial paralysis. He has nothing serious to do, he can attack. Danzo gritted his teeth in response. Based on his understanding of Minato, he would never be able to stand by and watch such a big event again. I see, that's good. With fourth generation's focus, we will definitely win. Fugaku flattered Minato in public without leaving any trace and acted like a real clan leader. Danzo's face turned dark when he heard this, but he could only hold it back. And urged, by the way, there is also Chief Fugaku, please go and help Jiraiya and the others. You must entangle the enemy and hold on until Minato arrives. Okay, I'll go right away. Fugaku didn't hesitate, he originally wanted to go back to the battlefield to have a look. Now that Sarutobi's body and Tsunade were handed over to the main force, they no longer had any worries and could naturally return. The other side. In less than 2 minutes, Jiraiya arrived at the battlefield where Nagato and the others were. At this moment, Jiraiya's left leg was disabled and there was not much chakra left. It can be said that the combat power has dropped to the extreme, but the basic strength of Konoha Sannin is still there. Even if there is only one arm left, it can still exert a lot of fighting power. Just like Orochimaru, even if there is only one head and one tongue left, it is enough to kill most ninjas instantly. In the center of the battlefield at this moment, Orochimaru, who activated the forbidden technique, Yama no Jutsu, has turned into a giant Yamata whitesnake and is fighting fiercely with Nagato. Looking at the Yamata no Orochi, which was as tall as a mountain and resembled a tailed beast, Jiraiya was equally astonished. Orochimaru, did this guy learn this forbidden technique? So strong. I saw the Yamato no Orochi rushing toward Nagato in a furious manner, each snake head possessing a terrifying biting ability. It can even bite open the chakra coat of an ordinary Susan. Nagato's legs were crippled, and he could only be carried by Konan with his wings spread out, floating in the air. Although he can fly, he only activates Shenra Tianzheng in reverse, levitating by repulsion. In terms of flexibility, it is far from being able to adapt to fierce battles. And it will also occupy the continuous consumption of Shenra Tianzheng. No way. Konan could only dodge with Nagato while launching a counterattack. But her shiki paper dance hit the Yamato no Orochi, and it was almost like tickling, and it was almost impossible to break the defense. Even if the power of the detonating talisman is added, it will only damage a little scale, which is not enough to defeat the big snake. It's a pity that there are number 600 billion detonating talismans prepared in advance. Otherwise, we could try to blow up the Yamato no Orochi directly. And Nagato was also a little helpless. After all, this Yamato Whitesnake cannot be absorbed with the reincarnation eye because it is not entirely made of chakra and its body is more composed of solid snake-like cells. Moreover, even the ordinary Shinra Tensei, launched by Nagato, could only push back the Yamato no Orochi 100 meters and smash 2 or 3 of his heads. This kind of injury is completely worth mentioning in front of its terrifying self-healing ability. In just 10 seconds, it can be regenerated and repaired. Orochimaru, he is indeed the Konoha Sannin who is as famous as Jiraiya-sensei. Such a twisted technique, it's almost comparable to a tailed beast. Is this the essence of a great country and a great village? It's really tricky. Nagato murmured with emotion, quite approving of Orochimaru's Yamato no Orochi. If Rain Shinobi Village had a few more talented ninjas of this level, how could it be reduced to the battlefield of the Three Kingdoms? There wouldn't be so many tragedies. It can be said that Baki's art is also very top-notch among the forbidden arts. With the body of a ninja, the power of a tailed beast is comparable. Looking at the entire ninja world, there are only a handful of them. In a narrow sense, only with style and Susanoo can reach this level. Its only shortcoming is sealing techniques. Moreover, you still need top-notch sealing techniques to threaten him. If Itachi hadn't been able to pull out an outrageous artifact, Ten-Fist Sword, from his crotch, Orochimaru would have been able to kill Susanoo just by relying on the infinite regeneration ability of the Yamato body. Orochimaru emerged from the head of a snake, holding a Kusanagi sword and looking at Nagato opposite. The corners of his mouth were raised slightly, with a hint of pride. With his own hard work and talent, he can compete with the reincarnation eye, which is the strongest blood inheritance limit. This is Orochimaru's best proof. His best achievement. Naturally, he was ecstatic and very excited. Certainly. He also knew that Nagato had been depleted by the previous battles, and his combat power was definitely not as good as it was at its peak. But that's not important. There is only victory or defeat in war, no meanness or excuses. After killing Nagato, obtain his reincarnation eye and equip it with various forbidden techniques that you have mastered. Orochimaru can't even imagine how strong he will become. Maybe it's possible to ascend to the realm of gods? Orochimaru, you are the first person I have ever seen who can use ninjutsu to such an extent. Haha, thank you for the compliment. However, no matter how many beautiful words you say, you will not escape death today. Orochimaru licked the Kusanagi sword again, with cruelty and greed in his eyes. He has basically figured out Nagato's general abilities. These methods alone are definitely not enough to completely kill his Yamato no Orochi. As long as he can't be killed, he can quickly regenerate and repair himself. If you delay until the end, even if it takes time, it will kill Nagato. Unless he can release Super Shinra Tenjung again? It's a pity that with his current condition, he probably can't be released, right? You should win this battle. It seems that if I don't deal with you, it will be difficult to guide Mr. Jiraiya again. In that case, let me give you a ride. Konoha Sannin, let this end. Nagato felt cruel, squeezed the chakra in his body again, and suddenly performed the technique. Although he does not have the top-level sealing ability that comes with the artifact, Ten-Fist Sword, the Reincarnation Eye, also has top-level sealing techniques. Planetary Devastation. Nagato let go and released the gravitational core that created the planetary devastation. Orochimaru paused suddenly, sensing something unusual. Episode 98, Super Form. Nine Tails Jinchuriki Minato. Planetary Devastation, sealing techniques with the strongest Samsara Eye. It is also an integrated expression of the basic abilities of the Samsara Eye, and there is no limit to how strong it is. As long as the chakra is enough, nine-tailed beasts can be easily sealed. Nagato's current state and chakra are certainly not enough to seal nine tails, but it is still enough to seal ordinary tailed beasts. And once this move is performed, the gravitational force will cover the area, making it almost impossible to avoid it. Especially the larger the body, the harder it is to dodge. Only with absolute strength can one break free from the meteorite seal. Boom! With the attraction of the gravitational core, the gravity trend in the surrounding area of tens of thousands of meters is distorted. The whole land began to tremble crazily. Large chunks of rock floated into the air, flying towards the gravitational core high in the sky. Each piece weighs thousands of tons, enough to kill an ordinary large psychic beast. But now, there are tens of thousands of pieces gathered together and continue to fuse, squeeze, shrink. When it is fully formed, the pressure in its internal center will reach an extremely terrifying level, enough to crush flesh and blood into powder. This is the most terrifying part of planetary devastation, instead of just wrapping the sealed target with layers of rocks. Under the terrifying gravitational pull, Orochimaru's Yama no Orochi gradually left the ground. Its 7 snake heads quickly turned to bite the ground in an attempt to increase their grip. But soon, together with a large piece of land below, it was sucked up into the sky and floated towards the core of the meteorite. What ability is this? Orochimaru was shocked. He had never seen anything on the scale with such outrageous abilities. This has gone beyond the scope of ninja and is comparable to the power of God, right? Of course, he would not give in easily and continue to control the Yama no Orochi to struggle wildly. Pity. Being sucked up to a high altitude, in the gravitational distortion area, the entire Yamada no Orochi seemed to be in space. No matter how big the body is, no matter how strong the regeneration ability is, it will have no effect. It has no borrowing point at all, allowing it to move with force. It can only be attracted to the core of gravity little by little, as powerless as falling into a dark abyss. Below. When Jiraiya saw the scene in the distance, he was shocked and also extremely anxious. He yelled quickly, "Orochimaru, that's planetary devastation. Run away. You must not be sealed by it. Once it is wrapped and sealed by the meteorite, it will be dead." Hearing Jiraiya's reminder, Orochimaru, who was already very close to the meteorite, couldn't help but feel his heart tremble. His undead reincarnation and curse seal technique haven't been fully developed yet. If it were sealed into this meteorite, it might really be GG. He didn't think his Yama no Orochi could resist the force of so many boulders being squeezed into a ball. There was a high probability that it would just be crushed into a ball of powder. No way. Orochimaru immediately made a decision, and with a cruel heart, he gave up the Yamada no Orochi, completely drilled out of the snake's head and returned to human form. Then, with its flexible and compact body, it jumped on the surrounding rocks and got away from the core of the meteorite as quickly as possible. Bang, bang, bang. Soon, the huge Yama no Orochi was submerged by countless rocks and was crushed into minced flesh amidst howls of wailing. A lot of blood spattered out. But even the blood couldn't flow out, and it was still pressed back into the meteorite. You can see how strong the gravitational force is. Snort. Want to cut off your tail to survive? You can't escape. Nagato formed seals with both hands and continued to increase the output of planetary devastation, while enhancing the attraction of the meteorite core to Orochimaru. While controlling a large number of rocks in the air to shoot towards Orochimaru, they were as dense as a heavy rain. It's like firing hundreds of Earth-style ninjutsu instantly to prevent Orochimaru from escaping. The numerous attacks and the pull of gravity made Orochimaru too tired to deal with it, and he was unable to escape from the gravitational area. Instead, it sank deeper and deeper, getting closer and closer to the meteorite itself. Jiraiya below wanted to stop him, but was entangled by Conan's paper clone. Besides, even if he wasn't entangled, he couldn't save Orochimaru. If he approaches rashly, he will only be sealed into the meteorite together. Finally, under Nagato's constant pressure, Orochimaru was finally sucked into the meteorite. Then, countless rocks immediately absorbed on it and blocked it tightly. Seal up. Die. Nagato shouted and completed the last step of planetary devastation. The entire meteorite suspended in the sky was violently compressed in a final circle. With huge pressure, all the sealed objects inside were crushed. So far, the seal is complete. Even if there is a chance that Orochimaru is still alive inside the meteorite, there is no possibility of breaking out of the seal and escaping. Orochimaru, one of the Konoha Sannin. From today on, it will disappear completely. Orochimaru. Nagato, you bastard. Jiraiya roared in the distance, and the anger in his heart could not be increased. In one day, He lost his teacher and best friend, and was killed by his own disciple. Jiraiya didn't collapse on the spot, which was already pretty good. See this. Nagato, who fell into weakness, gasped for breath and smiled ferociously. Jiraiya-sensei, now you finally feel the pain, right? Feel the pain and understand the pain, right? In that case, you will eventually. Nagato's inciting words stopped abruptly, as if he saw something unbelievable. Jiraiya was also stunned, not understanding what the other party was surprised about. But suddenly I heard a familiar teasing voice coming from behind. Jiraiya, I didn't expect you, a pervert, to care about me so much. Are you reluctant to leave me Orochimaru? Jiraiya turned around suddenly. Only then did he realize that Orochimaru and Minato had already appeared behind him. Being weak and blinded by anger, I actually ignored their return. You. Sorry, teacher, I'm late. Minato held the kunai in his hand, laughed innocently, and apologized somewhat sheepishly. Obviously, he was the one who just activated the Flying Thunder God and teleported out Orochimaru, who was about to be sealed by the planetary devastation. This is the power of Flying Thunder God. Not only is he capable of killing enemies, but he is also capable of saving people. Planetary devastation, is it strong? So strong that it's almost unsolvable. It's a pity that in front of the perverted, Flying Thunder God technique, it can't stop people at all. No matter how powerful your ultimate move is, if it can't hit anyone, it's just like empty power. It was really dangerous just now. Fortunately, you have Minato, your Flying Thunder God. Otherwise, shouldn't someone cry for me? Orochimaru licked his lips, not afraid at all, but took the opportunity to tease Jiraiya. Shut up. It would be better if you died. Jiraiya's face turned red, and he cursed in reply. Then he immediately looked at Minato. Minato, you finally. Infinite hope arose in Jiraiya's eyes, and his body that had been tense relaxed. Saw Minato appear. He knew that everything was stable. Lord Orochimaru, please look after Jiraiya-sensei. Leave everything to me next. Just watch it, you too. Minato's eyes swept over Jiraiya's body covered with scars and lingered on the almost broken left leg for a moment, and his expression darkened. Then he took a step forward and disappeared instantly, and appeared hundreds of meters away, in a position that had been inserted by kunai. Then, he looked sharply at Nagato not far away. Nagato slowly landed on the ground and looked at Minato as well. Fourth Hokage Namikaze Minato, it seems that the rumors of your serious injury are just a cover. I never expected that you are also Master Jiraiya's disciple. Then should I call you Junior Brother Minato? Minato remained unmoved. He had no intention of talking about feelings at all and continued to say coldly, Senior Brother Nagato, let me call you like this. In the name of 4th Hokage Namikaze Minato, I want to confirm to you one last time. Are you willing to stop? This is also the last chance. Nagato grinned, his expression almost paranoid. Stop? I will never stop until Konoha feels the pain that goes deep into his bones. Minato nodded slightly and stopped talking nonsense. Okay, I understand. In this case, as senior fellow apprentices, let's end it here. Minato clapped his hands and activated Kurama mode in seconds. Directly incarnate the perfect Jinchuriki. The surging and terrifying Nine Tails chakra aura poured out instantly, overwhelming the entire audience. Episode 99. Hot Man is too fast. Nanny, open the water gate of Kurama mode in seconds. Not only Nagato, but also Jiraiya and others behind him were shocked. Minato, he turned himself into a Jinchuriki. I see. No wonder you left Minato behind. Is it because he was transferring the Jinchuriki? Wait, what about Kushina? Isn't the tailed beast bound to die after leaving Jinchuriki? Teacher, don't worry. Nine Tails split into two on its own initiative. Kushina is fine, my clone is still guarding over there. Minato responded. At the same time, feeling the massive chakra coming from Nine Tails in his body, Minato had never been so confident and powerful. Now I feel like I can play the Flying Thunder God passively. Hiss. Can a tailed beast be split into two? How could Nine Tails be so cooperative? So docile and obedient? Isn't that guy known as the most vicious and negative tailed beast? Jiraiya shook his head in shock, completely unable to understand this world. At this moment, Nine Tails inside the seal in Minato's belly was already cursing. These stupid humans. He has never been beaten by Hashirama or ravaged by Madara. I have no idea how cruel this society is. Are you being docile? My sharp tail has been blunted by society. Under the threat of Madara, he had to succumb to reality. By sealing the Minato boy, he could at least retain his consciousness and chat from time to time. If you really get caught by that bastard Madara, you will be a 24-hour nightmare slave. Which side is more comfortable? Which side should I choose? Nine Tails is still clear. You must know that Kurama is very smart. Jiraiya learned Sage Jutsu, which he could not fully master in his whole life, and he learned it in just a few days. How can you call Ninetales stupid? He is the fox who knows best in the entire ninja world that he who knows the current affairs is a hero. Ninetales? Turn yourself into a Jinchuriki? Fourth Hokage, you are so crazy. Nagato frowned, becoming more solemn than ever before. He could feel how powerful Namake's Minato was, and just being able to transform chakra into a physical Hagoromo was already outrageous. That huge power from Ninetales. Even from such a distance, people can feel a creepy sense of oppression. But come on, my pain is far greater than yours, and I will let you understand the pain. Nagato raised his hand to attack. Four black rods shot out, heading straight for the water gate in the distance. Minato disappeared with a whoosh. It's not a flying thunder god, but a pure teleportation technique. The speed is dozens of times higher than the speed of sound, directly setting off a terrifying sound barrier and shock wave, like a cannonball exploding on the spot. And this was just the aftermath of Minato's high-speed movement. Only when Minato turns on Kurama mode can it be said to be the real, yellow flash. Regardless of the increase in speed power defense, it is above Sage mode. It's an explosive improvement. Even Nagato's reincarnation eye was unable to fully capture Minato's movement speed and could only vaguely see a yellow afterimage. So fast! Nagato was so shocked that he almost couldn't catch Minato's afterimage. Just a blink of an eye. Minato had already ducked to the side of Nagato not far away. Shinra Tenjin. Nagato did not dare to hesitate and immediately launched a 360-degree blind-angle Shinra Tensei, trying to open the water gate and distance themselves. But the all-conquering Shinra Tianjung failed. I saw 9 chakra tails instantly condensed behind Minato and inserted into the ground, greatly enhancing the grip. Then he actually carried the strong repulsive force and broke through the defensive circle of Shinluo Tianjung. He stepped in front of Nagato in one step. How is it possible? You actually resisted the Shinra Tenjung? Nagato's expression changed drastically, and he was astonished as never before. What was in front of him was not a human ninja at all, but a humanoid monster-tailed beast. After discovering that the water door cannot be opened, Nagato immediately reversed Shinra Tensei, applied the repulsive force on himself, and ejected himself backwards like a cannonball in an attempt to distance himself. Even he wouldn't dare to fight Minato in Kurama mode, in close combat. At the same time, Konan in the distance also watched the whole battle. It wasn't that she didn't want to support Nagato, but in a battle of this level, she was not qualified to intervene at all. Interfering rashly will only cause trouble for Nagato. Is this the power of Ninetales? It is indeed powerful. Even my fighting style has been unknowingly affected. Looking at Nagato, who was bounced away by him, Minato couldn't help but sigh. A side effect of a sudden surge in power is that the fighting style becomes a bit rougher and less elegant. If it were the previous Minato, he would definitely not be able to resist the Shinra Tensei. However, this feeling is not bad. Minato smiled slightly, not disgusted with the surge in power. Besides, it's time to end. Minato pulled out the 9 tails from his back and took out a large handful of kunai, all of which were attached with the 9 tails chakra, and blasted away in the direction of Nagato. The speed of each kunai was ridiculously fast, tearing the air apart and making a harsh and sharp sound. There is no need to doubt that any kunai shot can probably blow up a building. Moreover, it arrived first and caught up with Nagato's body, which was thrown hundreds of meters away. Nagato quickly activated Shinra Tensei, again, deflecting the attacks of the 3 nearest kunai. But he didn't know that kunai was not an attack method at all, just an attack vector. In order to deceive Nagato's skills and seize the 5-second interval cooling gap of his Shinra Tensei. What is stronger than Kurama Minato is Intelligence Kurama Minato. Flying Thunder God Spiral Flash Super Flurry Dance Roaring Style. Minato disappeared from the spot and teleported to the kunai. And in an instant, the Flying Thunder God's second stage transfer was launched 9 times in a row. Coupled with the golden feather that comes with Kurama mode, Minato doesn't even need the assistance of flash bombs. He is a golden lightning by himself. It was as if a large piece of bright golden lightning covered the entire area. Akira Nagato couldn't tell the difference between east, west, and north. Not to mention locking the water gate. 9 teleportations in the blink of an eye. Even if the 4th generation thunder comes, he will have to kneel down in seconds. And with the blessing of 9 tails chakra, Minato has no fear of consumption. Massive Rasengan. As the last lightning fell, Minato appeared behind Nagato with a huge Rasengan. And he hit the meatball hard on Nagato. Boom. The dazzling light rose with the explosion, instantly flooding Nagato. Minato, on the other hand, held the kunai and easily teleported out of the explosion range. It changed from the previous roughness and returned to the elegance and speed of Yellow Flash. On the other side, Jiraiya and the two who witnessed the whole battle were also stunned. Even though Minato takes action, the battle is almost always over in a matter of seconds. But this time it was even more exaggerated. It's over. So fast. So strong. How long has it been? 2 rounds of confrontation? Less than 10 seconds, right? Minato easily defeated Nagato. Although Nagato himself has been greatly exhausted, his combat power is no longer what it was at the beginning. But this is too outrageous, right? This makes it look very embarrassing for the older generation who were defeated by Nagato. This kid Minato is still so fast. No, it's already incredible. Orochimaru nodded in agreement. But he was even more horrified in his heart. It's bad, I can't see Minato's movements at all. Even Nagato's reincarnation eye almost failed, and Orochimaru's normal eyes could hardly keep up with Minato's speed in Kurama mode. Even Jiraiya could only vaguely see a golden lightning flashing across the battlefield. Minato was already very fast. The teleportation skills are all above 2nd generation. Coupled with the huge growth of 9 tails, it is really scary. After a few seconds, the explosion of massive Rasengan gradually subsided. Nagato was hit from the front in a very bad way. Half of his back was crushed, his spine was also broken, and his bright red internal organs were vaguely visible. The whole person was paralyzed on the ground like rotten flesh. It was only thanks to the blood of Uzumaki and Senju that he could barely breathe his last breath. If the black rod on his back hadn't shared some of its power, this massive Rasengan would have directly killed Nagato. In battle, Minato will never be merciful. Nagato. Conan in the sky was extremely worried. He immediately vibrated a pair of paper wings and quickly flew towards Nagato on the ground. But just halfway through the flight, he only felt a flash in front of him, and the golden flash appeared in front of him. Contract seal. The sealing spell mark was suddenly engraved on Conan's body. Minato knew that Conan's Shikizi dance could ignore most physical attacks. But there's obviously no immunity to sealing techniques. Moreover, contract seal can also cut off Chakra's external output, causing Conan to lose contact with all paper clones. In this way, it would be impossible for her to turn into paper and escape, or transfer her body to other paper clones. You. Conan was shocked and lost control of Shikizi dance, leaving her at a loss. Minato still showed no mercy. He raised his hand and fired a normal Rasengan into Conan's abdomen. Rasengan tore into her Akatsuki organization red cloud robes and minced chunks of abdominal flesh. Conan spat out a mouthful of blood and was severely injured. Then, Minato held the kunai and stabbed Conan's neck with his backhand, preparing to kill this senior sister completely. There was not a trace of hesitation. Minato. Wait. Jiraiya's roar interrupted Minato's attack. The kunai stopped in front of Conan's neck. It had penetrated half a centimeter, and a trace of blood overflowed. Minato knew what teacher Jiraiya meant, so he held back. He changed the kunai into his palm and hit Conan's neck gently. Knock him out instantly. The unconscious Conan fell from the air and hit the ground hard. He should not have died from the fall. Minato then turned around and charged towards Nagato. He could give teacher Jiraiya a face and let go of Conan, who didn't seem evil. But for senior brother Nagato, who has caused a lot of casualties to Konoha and possesses the extremely threatening reincarnation eye, we must not let him go. As the 4th Hokage, he must make cruel decisions for the village and his relatives, and kill all threats as much as possible. Minato has already realized this. And just to be cautious, Minato didn't approach Nagato rashly, not sure if the other party was pretending to be dead. So he controlled 9 tails, directly condensed a small-tailed beast jade, and shot it towards Nagato's location. Strive to completely eliminate all threats. Episode 100. It's reasonable for a master to abuse his apprentice, right? That is. Tailed beast jade. He has just become a Jinchuriki, but he has mastered it so quickly. Okay. Minato boy is still ruthless. I like this kind of thing. Seeing Minato actually gathering the tailed beast jade, preparing to give Nagato the final blow, Orochimaru couldn't help but click his tongue in emotion. This kid's talent is simply incredible. This made Orochimaru himself, a genius, fall into self-doubt from time to time in front of him. Whose Jinchuriki can tame the tailed beast within half a day of sealing it, turn it into a perfect Jinchuriki, and master the terrifying ability of tailed beast jade? Of course Orochimaru doesn't know. This is all thanks to Nine Tails' own cooperation. in order not to be captured by Madara as another slave. The cooperation of Nine Tails is far beyond the imagination of outsiders. Even if Minato doesn't move himself, Nine Tails can do it all for you, ensuring your satisfaction. As for the tailed beast Jade, you must know that Minato's Rasengan was originally created based on the inspiration of observing the tailed beast Jade. If he wants to master the tailed beast Jade, it will naturally be much easier than other Jinchuriki. Of course, there is no denying Minato's own genius. There really is no one better than Minato. Jiraiya was filled with emotion and could only admire the excellence of his disciples. What? This can't be saved. If you speak now, you might be able to interrupt Minato. Jiraiya shook his head and sighed. Perhaps, death is also a solution for Nagato. After experiencing successive battles, he also witnessed Nagato killing Sarutobi-sensei. Jiraiya has completely given up the idea of persuading Nagato to be a good person. Nagato has been tortured by pain all his life, so it may not be a good thing to escape from this world full of pain. Hesitation, this is your shortcoming. I should have killed a few children back then, and it wouldn't have been so troublesome. Jiraiya retorted stubbornly, that's different. That was then, and now is now. I can't kill today's children just because of future threats. In that case, the enemy won't be able to kill them all. He did not regret accepting the 3 Nagato disciples, he only regretted that he was not decisive enough and failed to stay and continue to guide Nagato. Perhaps, then the current tragedy would not have happened. It's a pity that it's useless to regret these things now. I just hope that Minato can put an end to all this. The first time he condensed the tailed beast Jade, Minato wasn't skilled enough yet. I failed once and succeeded twice. And launched the small, tailed beast Jade, directly towards Nagato. To know. Before the birth of Wind Release, Spiral Shuriken, the only one that could launch high-density chakra was tailed beast Jade. In addition, almost all performances far beyond ninjutsu require chakra to undergo a round of property change first. And after mastering Kurama mode and tailed beast Jade, Minato will completely make up for the lack of large-scale destructive capabilities, completely surpassing the shadow level and entering the super shadow level, which is one of the few in the entire ninja world. Buzz. The tailed beast Jade passed through the space with a scalp-numbing vibrating sound and accurately hit Nagato on the ground. But an accident happened. Just before the tailed beast Jade exploded, a burst of space distortion completely swallowed the tailed beast Jade. Then, Obito's figure appeared next to Nagato. After seeing the masked man appear, the seriously injured Nagato couldn't help but be startled. He didn't expect that this Madara, an ally with evil intentions, was actually willing to save him. And Obito didn't want to show up. He had been quietly watching the entire battle, wanting to see if he could force Minato out. When he saw Minato appear, he was shocked that the teacher was intact. But what he wanted more than anything else was to quickly go to Konoha to attack Kushina while Nagato was holding Minato back. Even if Nine Tails cannot be captured, Konoha's Jinchuriki must be eliminated to deprive Konoha of its nuclear strike capability. This will level the balance of combat power between Konoha Village and the other 4 villages and accumulate time for Akatsuki's development. The result was a blink of an eye. Minato turned on Kurama mode himself and became Jinchuriki. This almost made Obito's jaw drop. Now you're going to attack Kushina. Minato himself has become a Jinchuriki, a humanoid infinite nuclear warhead that can fly thunder god teleportation. Obito couldn't even imagine how scary Minato-sensei would become. Compared to that, Kushina's side doesn't matter at all. Facing the perfect Jinchuriki Namikaze Minato, Obito doubted whether Nagato could last even 1 minute. The result did not disappoint him. In 2 rounds and less than 10 seconds, Nagato was defeated by Minato-sensei. For a while, Obito didn't know whether to sigh or feel regretful. He even felt a little weirdly happy in his heart. You see, I lost to Minato-sensei not because I was too weak, but because the teacher was too fierce. There is a feeling of schadenfreude when a bald man sees the American troops being beaten and losing their armor. I thought how powerful Nagato would be against Minato. That's it? That's it? At least I managed to hold on for 1 more round. God of War, Obito suddenly became a little more confident, but also a little more fearful of Minato-sensei. He swore secretly. Unless he becomes 10 Tails Jinchuriki, he will never fight Minato alone again. Pity. His oath was quickly broken. Seeing that after Minato-sensei defeated Nagato, he showed no mercy and killed him, even shooting a tailed beast Jade. Obito had to take action. But if he doesn't show up, the reincarnation eye will be blown up by Minato-sensei. To know. All their plans are based on this pair of reincarnation eyes. Without the Rinnegan, how can you activate Infinite Tsukuyomi? Even if you collect all the tailed beasts, resurrect 10 tails, and plant the sacred tree. In the end, without the Eye of Reincarnation, everything will be in vain. Obito doesn't know what strength Minato-sensei is missing, that he is willing to destroy such a pair of miraculous eyes. But the reality is that Minato really took action. No way. In order to prevent the Reincarnation Eye from being blown into powder by the tailed beast Jade, Obito had no choice but to take action. Use Kamui to suck the tailed beast Jade into the Kamui space in time, thus saving Nagato. Or to be precise, save the pair of Reincarnation Eyes. Obito looked at the paralyzed Nagato next to him, and then at Minato with Kurama mode, turned on in the distance. He knows. There was no way he could defeat Minato in this state. His only goal was to delay for a while and find a way to rescue Nagato. At the worst, Nagato's Reincarnation Eye must be taken away. It must not fall into the hands of Konoha. As for why he didn't activate Kamui immediately and take away Nagato on the ground? Joke. Kamui space is still being baptized by the explosion of tailed beast Jade. At this time, he activated the hollow, transferred part of his body into the Kamui space, or sent Nagato into it. What's the difference between that and seeking death? At least, you have to hold on for at least 10 seconds. Let's wait for the tailed beast Jade explosion over there to calm down a bit. But under Minato in this state, could he hold on for 10 seconds? There is no assistance from blurring. Obito was not sure he could hold on for 3 seconds. No way. Obito is going to use his mouth evasion ability and chat with Minato-sensei for a few words to delay time. Fourth Hokage, we meet again, I said. Obito pinched his throat and pretended to be cool in a low voice, trying to maintain his coolness. Although I had already lost all my strength in front of Minato-sensei last time. But as long as he opens his mouth, he should still be able to delay a few sentences, right? Pity. Obito miscalculated again. Minato is not someone who likes to talk nonsense in battle. He hasn't finished his small talk yet. Shwa. Minato suddenly activated the Flying Thunder God, disappeared from the spot, and teleported to Nagato. Almost face to face with Obito. Obito was shocked. Sigma. He had obviously endured the pain and scraped off the entire piece of flesh with the Flying Thunder God's mark on his back. How could Mr. Minato teleport to his side? The reason is simple and familiar. Because when Minato hit Nagato with massive Rasengan, he also left the mark of the Flying Thunder God on Nagato. He just teleported to Nagato at this moment. Who told Obito to be next to Nagato? This is what Fei Lation calls the mysterious ghost. After all, you can never guess where Minato has left the mark of the Flying Thunder God. Minato teleported over. Without hesitation, he instantly whipped out a Rasengan and swung it towards Obito. He knew it was Obito. But Obito, who has been bewitched by Madara and is disobedient, is not his good apprentice. He would not be like Mr. Jiraiya, who would persuade first and then take action. Minato would only cripple Obito first and then try to persuade Obito back. After all, he knows very well how difficult Obito Kamui is. Seeing Minato making balls, Obito's heart trembled. I couldn't help but recall the fear of being dominated by Maruko. If the hollow can still be used, he will naturally have nothing to fear. Anyway, as long as he doesn't take action, Minato-sensei can't hit him. But now his virtualization can't be used. And at this distance, who can avoid the close attack speed of Kurama mode Minato? In a flash, Obito made a ruthless decision and resolutely unlocked the left arm with Hashirama cells. With style, violent gun tree. This is not a complete ninjutsu, but the ability of Hashirama cells. As long as it is not suppressed, Hashirama's cells will swallow a large amount of chakra and quickly grow into a giant tree. And it can be used without any seals, it can be activated very quickly, and it can even be used to block Susanoo arrows fired at high speed. For a moment, a huge tree grew out of Obito's left arm, which blocked Minato's Rasengan attack. Then, Obito did not hesitate and immediately jumped back to stay away from Minato. As expected, the huge wood-style gun tree was shattered by several of Minato's massive Rasengan in the next second. It only blocked Minato for less than 2 seconds. Obito has already lost his left arm and consumed most of the chakra in his body. If it were just a moment later, maybe Minato's balls had already hit Obito. So horrible. Too dangerous. Obito, who jumped dozens of meters away, was already sweating and his hair was numb. Moreover, after losing this round, Obito was forced to leave Nagato's side and handed Nagato and the Rinnegan into the hands of Minato-sensei. This time, if he wants to take it back again, it will be extremely difficult.